What's up everyone, welcome to today's video. Today we are going to have an interesting discussion about Discord and the recent noise it's created over the past couple months and why you might want to have concerns about the future of gaming platforms as a whole. As always, I'm your secret source behind the screen, Redacted, and let's get into it. So for those who aren't caught up or are unaware of the whole story with Discord, let me give you some much needed context so you can understand what's been happening over the past couple months. Discord last year has reported over 250 million monthly active users, but within those numbers, there's a population of minors on the platform, which is important because many users have reported an issue with predators trying to contact minors, which has resulted in government officials from different parts of the world such as the UK, Australia, Brazil, and multiple US states who are now pushing for platforms such as Discord to have an age verification system to protect minors, which resulted in Discord announcing this month that it would force all users into a teen appropriate experience unless they verify their age, which understandably upset a lot of people as it felt like it was an invasion of privacy from the platform. But after some recent information came out, Discord now announced that they are suspending their plan to roll out an age verification system until they're able to figure out a better way to do it. Now that you have a full understanding of the backstory, let's get an understanding of everything so far. Earlier this month, Discord announced that there will be a new global age verification system set to release next month, which now means that everyone just gets treated like a teenager who just got access to the internet, which is imposing restrictions upon users until they're able to verify their age. Once news broke though, users of the platform immediately voiced their concerns about the privacy, such as data breaches, face scans, and ID uploads, which is major concerns to have when it comes to an app that just had a data breach not that long ago. So within the month, information surfaced that Discord had been running tests with third-party vendor Persona for age verification in the UK, which people then pointed out and obviously voiced their opinions on social media. What is important though is who is Persona's being backed by, because that's important information, because then you come to find out that Persona is backed by Founders Fund, a venture capital firm co-founded by Peter Thiel, who also co-founded Palantir, which is also important because that's the same company that's infamous for many government surveillance contracts, which when you add that to the big question marks, that should be a big question mark that many users of the app should have about that connection. So once news came out about the connection, researchers then did their work to discover that nearly 2,500 of Persona's files were just sitting like a nice piece of treasure just waiting to be discovered in a US government authorized server, revealing that the third-party company Persona that Discord is trying to work with runs 269 distinct verification checks, including screening for terrorism and espionage, which sounds way more than just a random age verification, which immediately raised red flags amongst the users of the platform. But this isn't Discord's first battle with trying to maintain trust of Discord users, because remember last year in October there was a data breach, which when you start to think about it, what an awful 5 months it's been for Discord. Data breaches, trust issues, questionable connections. But that's not my concern. My concern is just to inform the public of what's happening. So from the hack, third-party vendor called 5CA exposed the government IDs of around 70,000 Discord users who had complied with previous age verification requirements. With that and this mess, it would be very understandable why users would be heavily distrusting of this company. But thankfully, after everything that came to light, Discord CTO Stanislav Vishnevsky posted a blog admitting they missed the mark by miles, cutting ties with Persona and delayed the global rollout for this age verification system until the second half of 2026. Now that I've gone over everything so far, which I hope I did my best for you to understand, there's 3 things that interest me. And first thing I would like to talk about is the actual policy itself and what Discord is really asking users to do. When it was originally announced, Discord made it sound like everyone would need to verify their age with personal information again, which would be inconvenient for everyone and put most people on edge. In reality though, 90% of the user base would most likely never have interact with the verification question, because what Discord is going to use is internal signals like account age, payment methods, and server activity to determine if you're an adult, which while still to some could be an invasion of privacy, which I understand, but I think almost everyone would prefer this over having to put sensitive information out there about themselves again, especially after the data breach that we mentioned. From what I see though, only people trying to access age restricted content without an extensive history on Discord would need to go through third-party verification, which, as I said, I think most would have a lengthy history already on the app. But honestly, The blame ultimately falls on Discord with their poor communication skills. They scared a lot of their user base over something that would only affect a small minority. It's ironic though how an app made for people to communicate with each other, they'd be the ones that'd be struggling to communicate with us. But Discord's CTO openly admitted this was on them for not explaining it properly, which is understandable, and it means a lot that you can own accountability for your faults. After all that, the policy itself is not the worst thing in the world. It is actually a more reasonable approach. But do I think there could be better ways to verify people's ages as well as protecting minors on the app? Yes, of course. But the way they put everything sounded too sketchy for everyone who read what was going on. But in reality, not even 90% of users were ever going to see the effects of Discord's new format, because it's an internal system that does the heavy lifting behind the scenes without you noticing, so it doesn't affect your everyday experience on the app, which in that regard is a good thing. The real failure, as I said, was their lack of communication. Discord dropped an announcement that had everyone in panic, with people thinking that they're about to enter some crazy sci-fi Black Mirror situation where you have to give face scans. Thankfully, that is not a policy problem, but more so just bad communication on their end. But what I find still a little alarming is the third party that they went with, because what exactly would have happened if they still went through with everything and Persona had our information? Because when you pause to think about it, Discord chose Persona, a company partially funded and has connections with Peter Thiel, which raises its own concerns because he also has Palantir, and they have many contracts with US government agencies. And if I know best about America, Americans don't like when you snoop through their personal stuff or have their personal information just like that. And on top of that, once researchers found Persona's code sitting in government servers, when you add that information, it makes you wonder, what were they going to do with our personal information once they got it? Because Persona, outside of checking your age, it runs 200 plus checks for terrorism and espionage and adverse media across 14 categories, which is alarming for some because I wouldn't be appreciative if I was watching Battlefield 6 clips with people on Discord and FBI breaks down my doors thinking I'm a threat. Now, I know that is an extreme, but please just indulge in my hypothetical to understand the point I'm trying to get across. How the system works is that it gives a risk and similarity score to every user way beyond anything you'd expect from a simple age check on a simple gaming platform, which kind of gives me the vibes of Captain Marvel in Civil War II, where she was arresting people based off predictions and not facts, and even in that story, that was an extreme mess. Although Discord confirmed though the Persona partnership was limited, tested, and lasted less than a month and has since ended, there were still too many hurdles that they would have to clear before users would trust them again, so it only makes sense that they cut ties. Persona's CEO denied any ties to Palantir over government surveillance, but the company is actively pursuing FedRAMP government authorization. The connection with Persona is genuinely alarming if I'm being honest, because when you sign up to verify your age on a gaming platform, the last thing you expect is for a company with government surveillance to have hundreds of checks on you, including screens for terrorism and espionage. That doesn't feel like an age verification to me. That feels more sketch. Like, it feels like I'm being background checked, like I'm a threat to the country. Don't get me wrong though, I do understand that there are many questionable characters on the app, which is how we got here, because we want to protect minors as a whole from these questionable characters. But the fact remains that Discord tested this with a company that, without disclosing information up front, created a major breach of trust among users. And yes, Persona denies Palantir ties, but the issue is the financial connections are documented and the government server situation is real. Discord cutting ties was the right call, but for some, the damage has already been done in regards to trust. And then there's the breach, because all this is happening in the shadow of something that already went wrong a couple months ago. And the part that gives this whole situation its real weight, we didn't forget a couple months ago, a hacking group breached the last third-party company it worked with, 5CA, sparking major backlash. The backlash from having around 70 users with government IDs for age-related appeals had those IDs potentially exposed to who knows what person in the dark corners of the internet, buying it or even taking it for free to do what with that information. Names, usernames, emails, IP addresses, even government ID photos were all part of what was accessed, which, even if hopefully no serious consequences came from the data breach, a competent part of a business is trust with its consumers. And if you aren't able to garner trust with the users, then the next level can ruin you for bigger consequences. In the aftermath though, 5CA denied responsibility, claiming their systems weren't involved, but as expected, Discord blamed them anyways, which creates confusion and sense of users being played with, rather than both parties admitting their faults and trying to progress to a better future. But even with this data breach happening months before Discord announced its global age verification rollout, which, to be fair, Discord knew about its track record with third parties, and they still managed to push forward with it anyways, so this is still on them. Organizations like the Electronic Frontier Foundation called out this flawed age verification system outright and said the Discord breach was a prime example of the risk. What gets me is that Discord already had issues when it comes to users' government IDs being exposed because of data breaches. They knew what happened when sensitive data sat in other systems, and then months later they want to announce another global rollout of their new age verification system, which would involve another third-party company handling more sensitive data from millions of users. That's just not a communication failure. It feels like a breach of trust. The distrust within the community didn't just spring from nothing. It was from a buildup of bad events and bad decisions within the company, and the only thing they can do now is hopefully for the rest of 2026 have a perfect clean slate so they can build trust within the community again. So after taking a step back and looking at everything, you start to realize what a true mess this situation is for one company, because this situation is bigger than Discord, because it involves governments worldwide that are essentially twisting the hands of these platforms to make their users verify their ages. And every platform is going to face the same challenges similar to this. I do think Discord's approach of using internal signals for 90% of its users and only checking the 10% that don't have an extensive history isn't a crazy idea, but I understand how some might complain about it. But it is better than the alternative when you really think about it. The problem is how everything was connected and how it made everything became a mess. A data breach which led to them connecting to Peter Thiel, and because of the awful effort of communication resulted in people digging up the truth, all hitting at the same time, destroyed any goodwill they might have gotten, which if you can be that careless with your community, then you got what you were looking for, Discord. The best and only option was to delay the rollout and start being transparent with its users, which is a start, but Discord has a long way to build trust in the community. The deeper question is whether any age verification system can truly protect privacy. And the honest answer right now is probably not, because it is important to protect the youth, but I think you have to find a balance where you are protecting the youth without infringing on everyone's privacy. After everything, my honest take is that I don't think Discord is the most evil platform. I do think that most of it, if not all platforms, will eventually have to integrate age verification laws, and there are no perfect options. I think it's more of a lesser of two evil scenario. Discord's approach to using users' activity data isn't perfect, but I think it's better than having a company with government surveillance ties putting a score over my head, but they put themselves in this situation. From the data breach to the questionable connections and just poor communication in general, the community reaction was easy to predict and is justified. Delaying and promising transparency is the right move, but promises only matter if they're kept. The gaming community does not respond well to companies that play around with their trust, so it is going to take a long way for them to rebuild that trust with them. Alright everyone, that's everything. I appreciate everyone who made it to the end of the video and listened to my yap session. If you feel like I missed something, have an opinion, or just want to say hi, please let me know in the comments. As I said at the beginning of the video, I am your secret source behind the screen, the Name Redacted. Please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.